Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you are watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 movies that starred people who died while filming them. Now, movies might be make-believe, but there are times when they have to actually deal with some very real issues. For instance, what if the main actor in your production dies during or prior to the filming of the movie? The show must go on after all. So in today's video, we're looking at some of the more creative ways which people have gotten around the main star dying.
Top 10 movies starring people who died while filming them. Number 10. Desperado from 1995. Raul Julia was a respected character actor, perhaps best known for his interpretation of Gomez Addams in the Addams Family movies. Julia had dealt with a food poisoning issue in early 1994. In October of that year, Julia was admitted to a Los Angeles area hospital with stomach and abdominal pains. Julia's next movie was to be the Robert Rodriguez film Desperado. As a matter of fact, he had even brought the script for Desperado with him to the hospital. Julia suffered an unexpected stroke while in the hospital. On the day Julia died, shooting on Desperado started. At the very last minute, Rodriguez had to replace the role of primary bad guy Bucho with Joachim de la Mida. Reportedly, Rodriguez is still touched to this day by the fact that the script was in Julia's hospital room right until the end. Number 9. The Crow from 1994. Brandon Lee's work on The Crow was mostly finished when the fatal accident occurred, which resulted in his death. He was supposed to get shot with a gun loaded with blanks, but there was a fragment of prop bullet in the gun's barrel, which pierced Lee's side and fatally wounded him. However, the problem is that Lee was only mostly finished with his scenes. The scene which Lee was filming at the time of his death was also the same one in which his character, Eric Draven, dies. A body double was used through most of the scene, and the part where Draven is falling to his death actually has his face superimposed over another actor's body. His face is not shown in the rest of the sequence. Such a trick led to the frightening possibility of dead actors one day starring in new movies. Number 8. Game of Death from 1978. Bruce Lee was filming Game of Death at the time of his death in 1973. The original film was supposed to feature Lee climbing up 5 levels of stairs, facing a different style of martial arts at each level. As the levels progressed, so did Lee's understanding of martial arts. As Lee died during the production, Game of Death's release was delayed by 5 years. There was a subplot added in which Lee's character is shot in the face. Lee is then allowed to fake his death and receive plastic surgery in order to explain the 2 different actors playing Billy Lowe. While the idea was clever, the final film received very mixed reactions. Number 7. Wagons East from 1994. After John Candy died in Mexico while filming the comedy Wagons East, the production team was left with a dilemma. Namely, they needed to finish a film in which Candy was required for several sequences. They turned to new digital technology in order to try and digitally recreate Candy for some sequences. In addition, they also resorted to tricks usually reserved for action movies, such as a body double. How would you like to get that call? Hi, we need a body double for John Candy, and after seeing you scarf down 2 whole pizzas by yourself, we knew you were the one. They also used a voice actor to try and sound like Candy. The director later remarked that he hopes it would be remembered as one of Candy's better roles. Somehow, it rarely comes up in conversation. Number 6. Transformers the Movie from 1986. It's widely known that the voice of Unicron in Transformers the Movie was Orson Welles' last role. Welles reportedly died at the typewriter, attempting to write a new script for a potential television endeavor. There is, however, some debate as to the impact that Welles' death had on the production. The popular theory for years is that Leonard Nimoy finished the work for Welles. In recent years, that claim has been refused by voice director Wally Burr. Burr states that Welles was done with his role by the time of his death, and Nimoy was never used as the voice of Unicron. Years later, director Michael Bay would half-joke that Burr does bear some responsibility for Welles' death. Burr was apparently pretty legendary for making voice actors work a full 8-hour shift. This is partially backed up by voice actor Maurice LaMarche, who voiced Brain in Pinky and the Brain, sparking a mini feud between LaMarche and Burr. Number 5. Trail of the Pink Panther from 1982. The death of Peter Sellers in 1980 after a long battle with heart disease at the age of 54 would have seemed to stop Sellers from starring in the Pink Panther movies as the bumbling Inspector Clouseau. Ultimately, this was not to be the case. Director Blake Edwards cobbled together another movie out of unused outtakes from the 5 previous Pink Panther collaborations to make Trail of the Pink Panther. It was not even Edwards' last Pink Panther film. In 1983, Edwards would make Curse of the Pink Panther, centering around the search for Inspector Clouseau, which had even more archived footage. The search did not manage to end with someone whacking a dead horse next to Sellers' grave. Number 4. Gladiator from 2000. Oliver Reed had a certifiable reputation as an alcoholic as well as a womanizer. On the night of his death, he was reportedly in a bar and died owing a nearly $900 bar tab. At the time of his death, he was currently filming his role as Proximo in the Ridley Scott film Gladiator. In order to film Reed's screen death, a body double was used. The scene was mostly shot around Reed's face, but did give glimpses of it for under 2 minutes in the actual film. Doing so cost Scott nearly $2 million. Number 3. Plan 9 from Outer Space from 1959. Schlock director Ed Wood's movie Plan 9 from Outer Space was Bela Lugosi's last film, as he died while filming it. Wood did not have any resources to make a new film, much less go back and remake an old one. Wood finished his film by using stock footage of Lugosi from other unrealized films, such as Ghouls on the Moon. The rest of the scenes were legendarily finished by Ed Wood's wife's chiropractor, Thomas Mason, who was not the same height as Lugosi, not to mention several years younger. Also, he didn't look a thing like Lugosi. The problem would have easily been solved by making Mason shoot every scene holding his cape over his face. Well, at least they tried. Number 2. Shrek from 2001. Chris Farley's death of an overdose in 1997 had a lot of adverse effects. One of the most practical ones was that his voice work for the upcoming animated film Shrek was not finished for DreamWorks. The alternate trouble was how to market a kids' movie with a dead actor's voice. In the end, Shrek was voiced by Mike Myers, and the rest is history. Farley's voice recordings have never been released to the public. Number 1. The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus from 2009. The death of Heath Ledger was indeed shocking, but the production affected was not The Dark Knight. Joker was good to go by that point. What was endangered was Terry Gilligan's The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Ledger had filmed scenes for his brother's grim collaborator, but was by no means finished with the film. Ledger's role replacement would require some, imagination. Ultimately, Ledger would be replaced by not 1, but 3 actors. The first replacement to come on board was Johnny Depp, but his schedule did not allow him to finish all of the scenes. Thus, Jude Law and Colin Farrell were brought in to finish the role. To explain all of this away, Gilliam had all their scenes take place beyond a magic mirror in another reality. This served to help suspend our disbelief as to why Tony had a new face in every other scene.
So I really hope you found that video informative. I won't say enjoyed because it's kind of a depressing topic. If you did find it informative, then maybe check out a couple of our other videos. There's one about the top 10 stuntmen who died while filming, and another one about 10 famous people who died in an airplane crash. Yes, it's all very morbid today. If you did like this video, we put out tons more stuff like this, most of it a bit brighter, so just click on that subscribe button on the screen now. New content 7 days a week. You're sure to like it, so click it now. Thank you for watching.